Hello, and welcome to Executive Edge, where insights meet action. Brought to you by Hartman's team of executive advisors. This video series delivers thoughtful takes and expert analysis on the top trends shaping technology, business, and industry. Designed to fit into your busy schedule, each episode runs 20 minutes or less, breaking down the innovations, risks, and opportunities that matter most. No fluff, just the insights you need to stay informed and ahead of the curve. Let's dive in. And welcome to Executive Edge. I'm Lauren Langer, Director of Marketing at Hartman Executive Advisors, and I'll be facilitating today's discussion. Today, we're going to be exploring the power of data, transforming associations for growth and engagement. Data is a critical asset for associations, shaping member engagement, operational efficiency, and long-term strategic growth. Joining us today are two distinguished experts of the Hartman team. First, we have Juan. He is a data-driven technology strategist with deep expertise in analytics, business intelligence, and data governance. Juan helps organizations harness the power of data to make informed decisions and improve operational efficiency and then unlock new growth opportunities for them. We're also joined by Frank. Frank is an experienced IT leader with extensive expertise in the unique challenges and opportunities facing associations. Frank has worked closely with membership organizations to modernize their technology infrastructure and improve digital experiences and implement solutions that drive engagement and retention. Hello, Juan. Hello, Frank, and thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Lauren. Thanks for having us.
Wonderful. Well, my first question I have for you guys are, what are the biggest challenges today that our associations are facing when it comes to data management and strategy?
I think there are, several, obviously, starting with some associations. Many have their data in silos in different systems, and it's difficult to marry up that data across those platforms. Lots of associations have manual processes, and they rely on those for data entry, membership renewals, registrations for events, etc. And whenever there's manual operation, manual data entry, there can be challenges with getting that information in correctly with the right kind of quality. Scalability can be a problem as associations grow. Their data becomes more complex, maybe more silos of data are added. Data quality and integrity is an ongoing challenge for many associations, and it's an activity cleaning that data that needs to happen on an ongoing basis. And then last, data security. How do we make sure that we're securing our data, we're protecting our members' sensitive information from unauthorized access and disclosure, but still being able to use that data to determine business insights?
Yeah, and Frank, I think many of those challenges that you talk about, I think we see them with many other clients, right? Even outside the associations industry. I think something that is perhaps unique about associations is the number of stakeholders that they have to deal with. And in other companies or organizations, it's kind of clear who the customer is. But in the case of associations, you have members, you have the conference attendees, you have the exhibitors, the sponsors, and you have all these different entities or stakeholders, and you're collecting data from all of them, right? And sometimes an exhibitor is also a member or also has people attending the conference, right? So I think what's perhaps a little bit unique about associations is having that complete view of your customers. It can be attendee or a member or etc., right? And understanding the connections between the different stakeholders. I think that's probably one of the big ones.
Yeah, I would agree, Ron. In fact, I have a client today that has all three of those populations that they need to engage and support and figure out how to get, an exhibitor, for example, to attend events, many events versus one, or a member attending an event or becoming an exhibitor, whatever it might be.
Right.
And certainly, as I mentioned with regard to data silos, the data for exhibitors and members and attendees may be in different systems.
Right.
It's hard to to find the connections where a member is an exhibitor, and what can we do with that kind of information, for example.
Like a simple
No, go
question,
ahead,
right?
John.
How many of our attendees are actually members, and how many new members we acquired? Yeah.
No, but I think that that's a really great point on if they had this data, what they could do with it. And it makes me wonder, like, association, I always say Amazon, they don't have to worry about like what is on page 1 of their site. Data tells them what's on page 1 of their site. What can associations learn from commercial businesses on how they could use their data? Like if they were able to get it together the way that they really should have it, what could they learn from commercial businesses and how they're using data and how they potentially could use their data?
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
I have some thoughts, Frank, if I may. But I think one big learning opportunity is the personalization, and personalization in terms of either marketing or increasing engagement, right? So going back to our conversation of having different types of customers, and sometimes they are the same, either person or institution that could be a member or an exhibitor. I think if you have that complete view of who your customer is, what type of organization they are they frequent attendees to your conferences, then you can tailor your offerings, your courses, invitation, webinars to that particular customer, right? So that personalization is something that many other commercial companies are doing with all the data that they get from different places. And I think that's an opportunity for associations to increase member engagement.
In fact, not a commercial enterprise, but a very large membership association that I worked for in the past. We were working on how to engage a person, not a group of people, but understand what they were looking for from a personalization perspective and engage one-on-one with a member to try to increase their engagement. In addition, I've had several membership association clients who, more interestingly enough, would say to me, we want to be like Amazon. When I have a member sign on, I want their experience to be like Amazon. And it's a great experience, but it requires a significant level of data integration and infrastructure and even more understanding of the data and what it means, and then how to use that data to engage one-on-one with a member or an attendee or an exhibitor.
And so the exhibitors, like I would think their sponsors are a big source of revenue for them, for the association. So they're probably trying to do some of that personalization and get more out of their sponsors, and that other commercial businesses are similarly trying to do those types of things, and that they could learn a little bit from them in those cases.
And I think personalization also, so far we've been talking about member information or customer information from operational systems, registration systems, whether did they attend or not, what tracks did they attend. But now I think companies and commercial companies are also tapping into unstructured data, right, or semi-structured data. And in the case of associations, they have so much content, right, and knowledge and presentations and papers, articles, webinars. And that is a very rich set of data or knowledge that can be personalized to the needs of your members, right? Some members may be interested in one area, and others may have a broader view. But if you can understand that connection and personalize the content that you deliver, I think that would help increase revenue opportunities for associations.
No, I agree with that. I think the more you make that experience the individual wants, the more engaged they'll be. And I'm sure I've seen data that shows that.
So, like that potential we're talking about, like being a revenue stream, how else can associations use their data today in order to gather information to create more revenue streams? So ultimately, at the end of the day, we know that these associations are constantly looking for what's the next best revenue stream to not just add more for our members, but also to help the association grow.
Yeah, I think there are a couple different ways that I would think about using tiered pricing models. Maybe one way to help drive a new revenue stream. A challenge that many associations have today is engaging new members, younger generations, and it's clearly a challenge. And one way to try to overcome that challenge is to perhaps have lower entry point prices for younger members. Understanding who they are, that may drive increases in membership. Educational content and webinars, reaching out with opportunities that are tailored for certain groups of members may drive increases in attendance in those type of events. Similar to structuring events for different groups of members based on shared interests or other things that they have in common.
Yeah, and I think you have to segment your customers, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think that is so important, and I think what many, the big product companies, the Amazons, they do tons of segmentation, and in the case of associations, to your point, Frank, you need to understand what type of customers I'm dealing with. If you have a big conference, right? Are the people attending that conference, are those medium-sized companies? Are they large companies? What else can I offer to them? And many of these large companies, they do these voice of the customer studies, right? So they actually go and engage and ask for feedback for your different customers or attendees in order to understand what they liked, what they didn't like, what they would like to see, right? So if you understand what they're looking for and the type of customers that they are, I think you can match those two and deliver something of value to your high tier customers, right? The ones that are going to come back next year, that have certain size of revenue. So how do you identify those, connect with them, and engage with them to retain them, right? And I think that's going to help them increase revenue over the long term.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you, Juan. Thank you, Frank, for a great discussion today. I'm very excited for our future discussions. And for all of our audience today, subscribe and continue following Hartman's Executive Edge for more great insights from our team. Again, thank you, Juan. Thank you, Frank. You guys were absolutely wonderful today. And enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Thank you.
Great.
It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Lauren.